right? And Brazil has done an amazing thing as far as continuing to develop the most elite players in the world, an unusually high percentage relative to the rest of the world. Well, how does it happen? What are they doing that the rest of the world isn't? Okay? And there's some that will suggest that it's a combination of nature and nurture, right? They've got a friendly climate for soccer. They have a passion for the game. It's almost like, you know, we'd like to think we have it in Canada. You know, hockey is, they eat, sleep, and drink it, right? Nationwide, it's almost a religion to them. For us, it's a religion in the United States. We live in the hockey hotbeds, I guess, or we love hockey, but that's what they're talking about as far as their passion for hockey. And then they have this, right? They've got a diverse population. 40% of the population is poor, okay? And a lot of them see soccer as the means to get out of that plight. So there's some that would suggest that this is the formula, and this is why Brazil is developing better soccer players than the rest of the world. The problem with that argument is that those three things existed in the 1930s and 40s, and they weren't developing soccer players. So what changed? In the 1950s, Brazil started to train in a particular way. They stumbled on a tool, okay, that helped them. That helped in that development process, okay? They found a way to increase their learning velocity, and they were unaware of it at the time. They stumbled on this thing, okay? And the tool was this game of futsal. How many people have heard of that? In Portuguese, it's called soccer in the room, right? It was invented by a Uruguayan coach. And it was a training tool. It was a rainy day training tool. So when they couldn't play soccer because the weather stunk and it was raining, they would bring it inside and they would play this game. So what is it? Number one, it's regarded as the incubator of the Brazilian soul. It's taken on a life of its own. Kids play it in the neighborhoods and at the soccer academies. Ages 7 to 12, they play on average 3 days a week. Top Brazilian players play thousands of hours of futsal. Okay? This guy here, Janino, he's a great Brazilian player. He never kicked a full-size soccer ball until he was 14 years old. He's one of the best players in the world. So here's the game. The ball's half the size, it weighs twice as much, and it hardly bounces. They train on basketball-sized patches of concrete, wooden floors, dirt. It's a poor country. So they're finding any area in between their apartment buildings or whatever that they can find to play this game. Each side plays with 5 or 6 guys. The rhythm of the game resembles basketball or hockey because it's end-to-end action. Because what have they done? They've confined the space, right? So speed is an essential aspect of it. A lot of people that have studied this Brazilian soccer believe that this is the impetus to their Brazilian skills. This is where they were born. Does this remind you of anything? Why is it effective? Number one, the math. Players touch the ball on average six times more per minute, according to a Liverpool University study. They have way more touches. The ball is small and heavy, and it demands and rewards more precise handling. You can't get out of the tight spot by booting the ball down the field. You've got to hang on to it. You've got to handle it. You're being forced to acquire those skills because of the nature of how the game's played. Sharp passing is paramount. The game is all about looking for angles and spaces, working quick combination with players. It's an understanding of time and space, right? And when you think about instinctive games, combative games like hockey, lacrosse, soccer, basketball, okay, when you think about the nature of how the game is played, it's all about this. It's the understanding of time and space. It's jumping into windows of opportunity at the right time, and then having the skill sets to be able to act on and execute and take advantage of opportunities. That's what instinctive games are about, okay? Ball control is obviously critical, and vision is critical. That's the game. It compresses soccer's essential skills into a small box. It places players inside the deep practice zone. It targets the struggle. They make and correct errors, and they myelinate. That's how it happens. Problem solving is a big part of it, right? I would suggest to you that this is the one aspect in the way that I've observed our kids playing hockey and growing up is that we don't put them in enough circumstances where they're forced to have to problem solve. We give them the answers, right? That's what the system stuff is all about. Get it out, get it in, get it deep, right? Instead of creating circumstances where we challenge players to think for themselves. We condition them almost not to think by some of the circumstances. And this goes back to the discussion we had last night about at the youth hockey level, does winning and the priority on winning have an impact on development? Are there repercussions? I believe there are. This is one reason, right? Because it gets in the way of this process. I can coach players, I can play a north-south game, I can play a territory game, get it out, get it in, get it deep, don't turn it over, take advantage of the tag-up rule, take advantage of the no red line, stretch the ice, tip it in, and forecheck. I can play that game and stay close, right? But having said that, what am I doing to my players? Am I making them better? Am I training them, or am I teaching them to think for themselves and overcome the challenges that the game presents? Players in this game touch the ball 600% more often. Think about that. Think about that from the age of 7 to 15. If you put players in a circumstance where they touch the puck 600% more times, do you think they would be better puck handlers? I mean, it's really interesting when you think about it in these terms. So that's Brazilian soccer. That's that little game of futsal that took place because of the environment and the culture that's in Brazil. Does that remind you of anything? Does that game remind you of anything? Like, take it to our sport. Nothing? Small area games, street hockey, informal settings, right? USA Hockey's whole small area game initiative, okay, is based on this premise. And it makes sense. I'll give you an example. There was a guy, and he was an elementary school teacher in Leeds, England. His name is Simon Clifford. He went over to Brazil. He was also a soccer coach, loved soccer. Went over to Brazil for a year on his own dime to study what they were doing. And he thought he was going to see these soccer academies with these big green soccer fields and strength and conditioning programs and this, that, and the other thing. And what he saw was a poor country that had no money. And he saw kids playing in between apartment buildings on dirt floors or concrete. And he saw them playing this game with a ball that was half the size of a soccer ball. And it was like an aha moment for the guy. So he goes back to Leeds, England. He taught in a Catholic elementary school. He took a group of 10-year-olds and he started to apply this process. At 8, and they laughed at him in England, all the soccer gurus. At age 14, okay, his team beat the Scottish national team and the Irish national team at the U14 level. 4 years later. So there's something to this, right? For me, there's really something to this. When I was reading about this stuff, it was just jumping out at me that you know, when I think about what's going on and what USA Hockey's trying to do with their ADM model, as far as an age-appropriate approach, and that small game initiative, and there's a lot of resistance to that small game initiative because people don't understand the nature of the game and the skill circuits that are required to be good. That's what small games do, okay? So let's talk a little bit about coaching methodologies now, all right? So we've talked about